Hey everyone, welcome back to Laura Talks. Today I will be talking about the first book in the Stormlight Archives, The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. As you can see, it is a very big book, so a lot of stuff happens in it, obviously. So rather than talk about the plot, I'm going to talk about the characters. But before I do that, I'm going to describe to you a little bit about the world. So, the world is called Roshar, and it is in the Cosmere, which, if you know about the Cosmere, that means that it takes place in the same universe as some other books, but on a different planet. So this planet is called Roshar, and there are, well, the first important thing about Roshar is that there are storms that come through periodically from the east to the west. They're called high storms, I'm pretty sure. Um, and these storms bring with them, obviously, like water and a lot of wind, but they also bring with them stormlight, which is a commodity on Roshar because, you can use it for light. You capture it in gemstones and you use it for light. And the whole economic system of Roshar, at least all the major countries, is based off of like spheres of glass with a tiny little gem right in the center. So that is their money system. Before I go further, I just want to say I don't own any of the material in this book. I did not help develop it. I'm simply a fan of the series. All of the copyright, everything belongs to Brandon Sanderson. Um, okay, back to Roshar. Um, there are also Sprin, which on Roshar, this might be true for the entire Cosmere, but it's only mentioned on Roshar in the Stormlight Archives. So there's the physical realm, and then there's a spiritual realm, which has an actual name. And then there's another realm, which I am forgetting. But everyone who lives is physically on the physical realm. But there are Spren, which live on the spiritual realm. And these are like manifestations of ideas and stuff like that. So there are like anger Spren, there's creation Spren, there's fear Spren, there's anticipation Spren, there's a lot of different types of Spren, and part of them is drawn over to the physical realm when people have strong emotions. So if someone is really angry, they will attract anger Spren, and the anger Spren will partially show on the physical side. There are also smarter Spren who can actually talk and like have their own personality and stuff. And I think there are 10 types of them, and they are connected to the 10 orders of the Knights Radiant, which it's very complicated and also very integral to the plot of not only this book but the entire series. So, right now all I'm going to tell you is that they exist, because I don't want to spoil it for you. At the beginning of this book, you meet 2 of the 10 heralds, and I think you get some names of the others. The heralds are very important, but we don't see from them personally that often, if that makes sense. But they are very important in this story. The first main character we see is Seth Sun Villano, who is the assassin in white. Now, each of the first 5 books has a prologue which details the night of King Gavilar's assassination, and is from a different viewpoint. The prologue for this book is from Seth's viewpoint as he is carrying out the assassination. and he's called the Assassin in White because he was wearing white while he assassinated the king. Um, there is actually an important reason for that. It comes about, it's shown in the later books. So hopefully you catch it, because I think my first read through I didn't catch it. Um, he is an interesting character. Definitely has a lot of mental illnesses, which should not surprise. Lots of people in this series have mental illnesses, but that's not like a bad thing. It's just it's part of who they are. You know, it adds character. Speaking of mental illness, Kaladin Stormblessed. That is not his actual family name. That is a nickname that has been given to him by several people throughout his entire life. Um, which, if you are given the exact same nickname by several people through at different points in your life, and they did not know the other people who also gave you that nickname, that means you deserve that nickname. And he does. He is blessed by the storm. Um, he is a very nice person. He suffers from depression. I don't think he's canon Arrow Ace, but lots of the fandom sees him that way. Um, so take that as you will. Um, he is a Dark Eyes, which that's how the majority of I think the majority of Roshar does their class system. You have Light Eyes, and then you have Dark Eyes, and then there are ranks of Light Eyes and there are ranks of Dark Eyes. He is a fairly high ranking Dark Eye, um, except for the times when he's not. Read the book if you want to know what I'm talking about. But he's a very interesting character. When you first meet him, he is a squad leader in an army, and then he eventually becomes bridge leader of Bridge 4, which that is an amazing group of people. Moash, Sigil, Teft. I love Teft. He is an amazing character with an amazing story. Rock, the Lopen, lots of characters that play a role in Bridge 4. I think that's like middle-ish of the book. So, if you're reading the book and you're like, why hasn't Bridge 4 happened yet? Just wait, be patient. It will happen. And that is a threat and a promise. Next, Shalon Devar. She is an aspiring artist. I say aspiring, but she is already an artist. She's an amazing artist. She's also a scholar, and when we meet her, she is on her way via boat to meet Jasna Colin in Carbranth, because she has a brilliant and also idiotic plan to save her family. And that plan does not go how she thought it would. Surprise, surprise. But it is a very interesting read. At least I thought so. I really enjoyed Shalon since the first moment she was introduced. I know a lot of people don't. They take some time to like her character. So if at first you don't like her character and you think she's kind of boring, just give her a second chance. She is totally worth it. I mentioned Jasna Colin. She is Gavilar's daughter and she's sister of the king Elhokar. She is a master of court politics and a world-renowned scholar and also an atheist, which in a medieval fantasy setting, being atheist is a big deal, and the Roshar is no different. She's Alethi, because most of the main characters are Alethi, just because I don't know why. I think just Sanderson had to pick a country for things to be like centered around. Um, she's strong and confident, strong mentally. I wouldn't be surprised if she's strong physically too. Confident. Um, I'm fairly certain she's canonically beautiful too. Um, she is an amazing character, very interesting too. Elhokar, kind of meh. He's kind of a pushover, kind of, um, you know, he's the he's the type of king that loses the kingship, if you know what I mean. He does get some personal growth and some development in his character arc, and he does have some interesting moments, so he's not a completely boring character. I don't think Sanderson writes any completely boring characters. Um, so that's Jasna and Elhokar. Um, Dalinar is Gavilar's brother, Dalinar Kholin, and he is a walking war crime. At least, that's who he was. When we see him, he has more self-control, he's grown a bit, he's become a little bit of a better person, but he still has those tendencies, because while you can change, you can never forget who you were, if that makes sense. And that's one of the things I like about Brandon Sanderson. Um, and that's a core tenet of this series. Change and the journey are very important. And they're always important. How you get to where you're going matters. And it definitely matters for Dalinar. He has lived a very interesting life, and he's going to live a very interesting life. Um, he does not want to be king. That's an important thing about him. Because you might remember that I said that Elhokar is the type of king that loses a kingship, and you might be thinking, well, why doesn't someone else just take over? No one else really wants the kingship, and those that do would rather, kind of control Elhokar behind the scenes, do that court politics stuff, control the king without being king, type things. So, that's why. Navani Kholin, she is the widow of Gavilar. She's Jasna's and Elhokar's mother. Not sponsored by Kirkland. That's just what I'm using for my water bottle. Navani, she is a scholar. Remember how I mentioned Sprin earlier? So she studies fabrials, which are made by trapping a sprin in a stone, and then trapping a sprin in a stone, and then using like a wire cage to control the sprin. The most basic version of that, I think, is like an attractor or a repeller. So you can attract heat, repel heat, attract smoke, repel smoke. And even though she has imposter syndrome, so she will say that she's not a scholar. She will say that she only funds the people who are doing the real work. But she helps. She understands fabrials. She gives them ideas. She points them in the right direction. She is as important of a scholar as all of the people who are actually doing the nitty-gritty dirty work. She is a scholar, and one day she will believe that. I really hope she will believe that. She starts off as kind of a minor character, but then she becomes more of a major character, and she's a great character. I think that's all I have to say about her. Kind of a minor character, at least in this book. Taravangian. He is the king of Kharbranth, where Jasna is when we meet her, and where Shallan is going. And Kharbranth is known for their amazing hospitals, which is ironic if you've read the series. If you haven't, try and figure out why as you read the book. It's an interesting journey. Adolin Cullen, he is he's Dalinar's oldest son. He's the best duelist in Alathkar, possibly in the entire world. He is amazing at dueling and sword fighting, and there are so many good dueling scenes with him, not only in this book, but in other books. He's also the court flirt. Um, I think there are several characters that, like, joke about, is there anyone that you haven't dated yet? But he's really interesting, and he's a really good character. Fun fact, some of my college friends got me into this series, and when they were talking about the characters and stuff to try and get me interested in it, and I actually thought Adolin was a girl because of the name, but he's not, obviously. He's complicated, and he has a complicated journey. But he's a really interesting character. His brother Renarin, younger brother Renarin, I don't think he's canon autistic, but everyone knows that there's something off about him in the books. So lots of the fandom headcanon him as autistic, and I do kind of see it. He is an interesting character. And I do enjoy reading his scenes. I think that's all I have to say about them. I'm trying to think if there's any characters that I haven't talked about that are important. I did kind of gloss over all of Bridge 4, and that's because it's very complicated, but it's an amazing arc, and I love it. And it remains important for the most of the book, most of the series, at least all that's out. Another bit of world building. There are what's called shard plates and shard blades, and at this point in the series, you don't know where they come from, but they've just kind of always existed. A shard plate is like magic armor that is very, very hard to break through, and it runs off of Stormlight. And shard blades are like magic swords, and they all have big, like, intricate designs. They're very flashy, and you might think, well, how do people fight with those? And it's because they're super lightweight. So it's like a mystery as to how these things exist. But if you have a shard blade, you can bond it, and then you can make it disappear, and then summon it again. So the nobility, it's a source of pride how many suits of shard plate and shard blades a noble family has, and how many of those a country has. So it's kind of like a competition. Sorry, I'm just super thirsty. There are competitions, there are duels where people win shard blades or shard plate. Most of the time they're won in war. The nobility tell the Dark Eyes, that if you defeat a shard bearer, you get to keep their shard plate and shard blade, which is part of how they get people to, sign up for war, as, glory for your country and everything, but also you could have shard plate and shard blade, these magical things that will raise your family's status, which what peasant wouldn't want that, a chance at a better life. So hopefully my rambling has convinced you to give this book a try. Highly recommend. Again, that's The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, Book 1 of the Stormlight Archives. Again, amazing artwork in this series. Um, as always, this video is to raise awareness for the GoFundMe I made for my sister. Any donors get to suggest a topic for Off Topic Tuesday, where I talk about a topic other than books, or you can suggest a book for me to talk about. Hopefully you liked it, and I will talk to you later.